Hello everyone and welcome back to another entry in the League Encyclopedia. Today I wanted to break down the Baron Nashor changes from the beginning of the season and talk a little bit about why no one cares or even notices which Baron they're fighting against anymore. Some of you may not even know that there are 3 different types of Baron nowadays, or you might be under the impression that the terrain is the only change between the various forms. The terrain is certainly the most impactful change to the Baron fight, which I don't think is how Riot actually intended these changes to land. So let's get into it. With patch 14.1, Riot changed Baron Nashor to be one of 3 forms every game, randomly chosen at time of spawn. The first of these forms doesn't change the terrain around it and is known as the Hunting Baron. It can also be identified by its horn on the top of its head, kind of like a unicorn. The second form is the All-Seeing Baron, identifiable by its extra purple eyeball in the same location as the Hunting Baron's horn. This one changes the terrain to open up the sides, creating one long tunnel through the pit. This version offers additional choke points to play around and creates some interesting vision battles since there's more ways to spot the Baron from all sorts of different angles. One control ward is simply not enough. The third and final form is the Territorial Baron, who instead of a horn or an eyeball just has nothing. There's actually nothing special about the Territorial Baron visually, which is a shame. But I guess we can kind of think of this one as the classic Baron. It does change the terrain of the pit just a little bit though, opening up the sides while spawning a new wall right in front of it. All of these Barons have the same basic attacks, and they even have the same abilities, except for one which sets them apart. They even have the same stats as each other, and this is where I think Riot held back too much. I think giving each Baron a unique identity, besides the shape of their pit, would have made these forms far more memorable, but also more interesting to fight and set up for. Perhaps the Hunting Baron could be the weakest of the 3 in terms of health and resistances, but deal more damage. Or the Territorial one be extra tanky. Maybe the All-Seeing one deals more AoE damage than the rest. None of that is the case, however. So let's talk about what does make them different. Every 6 auto attacks, the Baron unleashes an ability. The first ability is random, but after that follows a predictable cycle. Acid Pool is followed by the Special Form ability, which is followed by an Acid Shot, which is followed by a Tentacle Knockup, which is followed by an Acid Pool, and so on and so forth. The form ability of the Hunting Baron is a Chain Lightning effect, which deals 20% of the first target's current health as magic damage, reduced by 50% per target hit, so the chain bounces from one to the next and keeps doing less and less damage. All-Seeing Baron's ability targets the 2 furthest away champions and creates a Void Rift in their direction. The rift lasts 3 seconds and deals 1,000 magic damage over the duration. The Territorial, or Classic Baron, pulls in champions with his arms in a cone shape and deals just 300 magic damage, making this the weakest one by far. And that's it. That's all that makes these forms different. One ability every 4 abilities. Put another way, one ability every 24 basic attacks. How fast does Baron attack, though? Maybe he casts an ability very quickly, and I'm just trying to spin this to fit my narrative. Baron's attack speed is 0.625, meaning it fires 0.625 basic attacks every 1 second. Or, put in a way that makes a lot more sense intuitively, he fires 1 attack every 1.6 seconds. So let's do some math here. 1 attack every 1.6 seconds, 24 attacks to get to the Special Form ability means 38.4 seconds between each form ability? This is just insane to me. Baron would need to live for nearly 40 seconds to get a second rotation of its unique ability off. And that's assuming the random cyclical rotation of abilities starts with the form ability. If it started on Acid Shot in the cycle, you may never even see the form ability before killing it. And you certainly won't see a second rotation, since that would require Baron to live for nearly 70 seconds of active combat. On top of that, if there's more enemies behind it than in front of it, the ability cycle entirely is put on hold, and he instead does like a spiky AoE effect. Okay, so that's what Riot did. Those are the changes they tested and were happy with, and the player base was fine with it. So fine, in fact, that no one could even tell you what any of these Barons do, let alone their names. And the reason for this is that they barely changed anything at all. I mean, how can you expect players to care about what Baron they're fighting if you didn't put in the work to make them meaningfully different? Even at the highest level, the only thing that pros care about is the terrain changes, because it warps how Vision is fought over. I have watched VODs from all major regions, and I have yet to hear a single analyst ever mention how a certain Baron spawn had any impact on the game. Compare this to the rollout of the Elemental Drakes and the subsequent map changes based on the soul. Nearly every single cast makes a mention of it, because it matters, and the Baron changes just don't. They just don't. I wish they did. I really do. And I hope in the future Riot differentiates these Barons further. But for now, we're just left with Barons with cool names that no one knows, and only do something special every 40 seconds, maybe. Anyway, that's all I had to say about this Forgotten update. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And if there's anything I missed, or you disagree, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Subscribe if you'd like to see more like this in the future, and I hope to see you in the next entry of the League Encyclopedia.